there, my friends. I'm the Raging Redhead Cam Stewart from HotRoster today, and today we look ahead at Week 9 and the quarterback situations. This week is the last one with 6 teams on bye, so there might not be that great streaming option out there, but there are some guys we should be firing up in your lineups and others that should be riding the pine. Does it honestly get any better for the one they call Dak Prescott? First, the kid from Mississippi State has the Cowboys at 6-1, yeehaw, and leading the NFC East. Second, Jerry Jones has already said he's going to start this week, and that decision means Dak faces off against the Cleveland Brownies in Week 9, which should mean a huge day for Prescott. Despite the tough matchup against the Eagles last week, Prescott still managed to tally 27 points, the 5th most by any quarterback in Week 8. Part of that was due to the return of Dez Bryant. He made up nearly 50% of Prescott's production through the air, and it never hurts that Dak likes to use his legs as well, and that resulted in a rushing touchdown. The Brownies, they give up over 20 fantasy points to quarterbacks and nearly 300 yards. Sunday's not going to be any different. Prescott and the boys are going to have a monster day in Cleveland. Welcome back to the world of fantasy excellence, one Aaron Rodgers. In Week 8, it seemed like things may be shaping up for an underwhelming day for Rodgers. He had no Randall Cobb, no Ty Montgomery, no true running back. But you know what? It was no problem for Mr. Discount Double Check. Rodgers put together a 33-point performance in fantasy, his best since Week 3 of 2015. And this week, he draws the Indianapolis Colts at Lambeau Field. The same Colts that just got cleaned up by Nick Foles. In case you missed it, yeah, he plays for the Chefs. Foles managed to complete 16 of 22 passes for 223 yards and 2 scores. And I just don't see how Rodgers doesn't follow that up with more of the same. With so many questions in the running game, expect the pack to throw early and often. I say Rodgers finishes as the top quarterback this week, so make sure you put him in all your HotRoster lineups. Speaking of the Falcons' pass D that got roasted by Rodgers, now they face off this week against Jameis Winston and the Bucs in Tampa on Thursday night. This game is a rematch of Week 1, which saw Winston throw for 281 yards and 4 touchdowns, giving him 25 fantasy points, which was worthy of a top 5 spot in fantasy that week. And some say lightning doesn't strike twice, but I think it will this Thursday night. The Falcons' pass D has allowed 5 different quarterbacks to toss for 3 or more touchdowns this season, and 3 of these guys play in the NFC South. It seems like their divisional rivals know how to exploit them. Despite his inconsistencies, I'm putting my faith in Winston to do it again against those dirty birds from Atlanta. I'm pressing down on Winston this week. One guy who shouldn't be fooling you because he sure ain't fooling me is Blake Bortles. The Jags' leading man had one of those games last week where fantasy and reality were simply 2 different things. First, from a fantasy perspective, he crushed it, completing 33 passes for 337 yards and 3 scores, leading to a 29-point fantasy day among the top 5 among quarterbacks. But in reality, he was 8 for 16 for only 64 yards at halftime in that game versus the Titans, and his play got so bad that Bortles is now flying in an outside consultant to help work on his mechanics. Are you kidding me? That's how bad it is. Even the Jags coaching staff can't fix this guy. And to make matters worse, the Jaguars have a date with the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. I see big things for the Chiefs D this Sunday, so don't be fooled by Bortles' numbers last week. They're just lies. And I'm picking against you, Double B, once again on HotRoster. There's no denying it. If Marcus Mariota of the Titans isn't already a QB1, then he's right on the cusp of being in that official status. Over the last 4 weeks, he has tallied 16 or more fantasy points for his owners. My concern for him this week is the matchup against the Chargers in Cali. Since giving up 300 yards passing in each of their first 3 games, San Diego's pass D has allowed only 1 since. They also have never given up more than 2 touchdown passes and have managed to shut down Matt Ryan and Drew Brees this season. I mean, Mariota, yeah, he's good, but he isn't Matt Ryan good or on a Drew Brees level. That's why, despite loving this kid, I'm avoiding him this week on HotRoster. Another young rising star in the NFL has to be Carson Wentz of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's helped the Eagles fly to a 4-3 record, where they currently sit tied for second in the division and in range to fight for a playoff spot. Now, there's no denying that it's been some good play from Wentz. His best game came against the Steelers in Week 3, where he threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I just don't see that type of production happening this week. I know pickings might be slim on the waiver wire for a QB, but hey, trusting Wentz, I don't think he's your guy this week. He faces off against the Giants defense, and they've allowed less than 14 fantasy points to quarterbacks, and they've also allowed only 1 300-yard passer this season. There's a lot to like about Wentz, but despite the young kid's promise, I'm going against him on HotRoster this week and looking elsewhere for a better QB option. And that's it for today, my fantasy friends. Make sure you join us tomorrow when we dig into the running back situation for Week 9. And for those of you who don't know what HotRoster is, go to HotRoster.com and check it out. Download the app, give it a try. It's like no other fantasy game you've ever played. And then for help winning the game, you can check out HotRoster today with me and my buddy Gary and Thorne every weekday at 4:30 Eastern, only on the Fantasy Sports Network. For HotRoster now, I'm Cam Stewart, and I'll see you on the virtual gridiron.